This week on the OneCast, we're joined by TODD GOADE, National Professional Fishing League angler, currently leading the Progressive Angler of the Year in the NPFL, co-owner of Pulse Fish Lures, all-around good guy. And we're also going to introduce our new partnership.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.
I'm waiting to see if
what's going on, folks.
What's
going on?
What's going on, everybody? Fans of the OneCast, welcome to another week with us fools out here running our traps in Trey's garage. 36 weeks, I think we're at 36 or 37. So appreciate everybody joining along, following along. As always, make sure you head over to onecastfishing.com. Use the code TheOneCast. Check out, save you some coin on those snagless jigs, long neck hooks, and weedless Neds. OneCast Fishing has been a big sponsor. We have a new one to announce, but first I think we'll go around and just say, what's going on, guys? Anything good?
Man, I'm just tired of working. I'm ready to be retired, but everything's good on my end. I know that I am ready. I said it before. I'm ready for that fall weather, and luckily today, and Ben, you made a good call on like, hey, maybe we should shift the show to Wednesday, which it is, because the temperature is going to be about 10 degrees cooler, and actually worked out with Mr. TODD GOADE. So all around, I'm doing well, man. A little bit cooler temperatures, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, they're not going to last. I don't know if you've looked.
Yeah. So that's the problem.
Don't be a
right?
Debbie Downer, dude.
The death ray gets turned on tomorrow.
Yeah. It comes back on for a few days, but it looks like in the next couple of weeks we should start getting back down in the 80s, which will be great. One, for fishing, but two, also for production wise for me, for making products. So don't have to sweat as bad out there when it cools down a little bit. So looking forward to that.
I do want to bring it up, and Ben, you've been dealing with this on the business side of the house. There's been some serious issues going on right now with like the ability to shop on social media. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not quite sure where you're getting at. We've had some technical issues in our end working through some of the social media platforms and trying to correct some things, but I don't think it has to deal with so much with the customers. Like,
no, it's not with the customers. But what I did want to say is like, hey, if you're a customer, like, just bear with a company, like there are times when, social media kind of crashes or has like technical difficulties and stuff like that. And I know people want their product and want the ability to shop, but I just, I ask for everyone's patience and stuff, because it is frustrating when you're going through that platform and you want to shop, but at the same time, like we all know.
And quick, dirty, what Trey's talking to, if you've been familiar with OneCast Fishing and you've been to our Facebook or Instagram page, like you used to be able to purchase the product directly natively in app, but there were some technical difficulties between our shop and then Meta that we just had to get worked out. So it should be back up within a day or two now.
Yeah,
completely fixed. But
by the time you're hearing this, you can get your snagless jigs, your long neck hooks, those new soft plastics that OneCast Fishing just launched. So yeah, man, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, so this is coming out to y'all on August 31st. Crazy to think it's the end of August.
I know.
We've been saying we were going to announce this new sponsor on September 1st, but the way the dates fall, it makes more sense.
Just get 1 day early.
So you get it a day early. If you listen to the podcast, if you wait, then you're going to hear it the day of, or you're going to see us talk about it on our live on that Friday. But new partnership, we want to welcome Carolina Waters.
Yes, we do.
Carolina Waters joining us as our newest partner. I'm going to put a scroll up across the bottom of the scene that you guys will see, but I realized I spelled something wrong, so I'm fixing that real quick, and then I'll give you a quick breakdown of who Carolina Waters is. So Carolina Waters is a performance fishing lifestyle apparel brand. Think of your Avcos, your who else does
Hook,
all those companies. So they have performance fishing wear, lightweight UPF performance shirts for your fishermen and athletes, casual t-shirts. If you're just laying around, like we got a little bit of both. Trey's wearing some performance gear.
That's right.
Ben's got the t-shirt. I've got a t-shirt on. They have a big selection of hats. Both Ben and I are wearing hats. Trey doesn't have a hat on today, but you've seen me wear some different styles of Carolina Water hats and shirts. So if you are, if you're a fisherman, you're an outdoorsman and an athlete, any of that, make sure you check out Carolina Waters. Their website is carolinawatersnc.com. For the month of September, as a new introductory, as a partnership, if you use the code TheOneCast, all one word, that'll save you 20% off this month. We're going to keep that code going, but they gave some extra off for the first month of this partnership. So really looking forward to working with them, bringing you more of their products. I've been wearing their performance stuff. If you've watched any of our videos or seen our pictures, you'll see a lot of times I have Carolina Waters performance stuff out while I'm out fishing. It's great. I love the way it fits, breathes well, and it keeps you safe. I know you see the stuff about people like, I don't get long sleeves. Well, if you spend a bunch of time in the water like a lot of us do, sunscreen alone isn't enough to protect you from those UV rays. So check out their performance gear, and we'll be talking about them some more. But I don't want to delay too much further and keep Todd waiting. Do you guys have anything else before we bring him on? We do need to say congratulations to, I'm not going to try to say his name, Koya Fujita on his Elite Series victory, his first blue trophy. Won it up there at Lake Champlain. Heck of a week. It was a great tournament, big weights, fun one to watch. So congrats to him on his first Elite Series victory, and they'll be getting ready to go to St. Lawrence. So,
and I have to say, man, there's been a lot of rookies this year on the Elite Series that have won. Fujita's won, Joyce Cifuentes has won, Tyler Rivette has won.
Tyler's
not a rookie, but a lot of either first-time winners or rookies, especially rookies. So it'll be interesting to see their last event of the year. So by this time, everybody will already know the outcome of it.
That's right. All right.
So without further ado, let's bring in Progressive Angler of the Year for the national leader. I think he's going to win.
Don't jinx him yet.
from the National Professional Fishing League, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Todd Goad. Mr. Todd Goad, how you doing today?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Man, we're doing good right now. It's like we said, 10 degrees cooler in here, and that air conditioner is working overtime. But we're feeling nice, cool, and comfortable in our Carolina Waters gear. I can tell you that.
I bet it's hot all over the country, and I know we'll probably get into a little bit about Oklahoma, but I was looking at the weather out there, and it's like 110 out there with a heat index. So it's if you were out there, it'd be like fishing on Mars probably. But hopefully it'll cool down before we get out there. We got about another month before we go, and I was looking at the long range forecast. It looks like if it holds, it'll be 80s and 60s, so it'll be bearable by the time we get there.
I know locally we got a little bit of a cool down today. It's like 88 for the high, but tomorrow it's mid 90s. I think Friday was 100, 96 on Saturday. So those heat indexes for us will be up there 110, 115, and then it's always 100% humidity, I swear. So
I respect my mother, but Mother Nature, I'm really mad at you right now, just for making it feel like I'm walking into a preheated oven every day.
Heck yeah. So Todd, we know a bit about you and your story. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say I lived in pretty close to Lake Lanier for 20 years up until about into 2019, and it's the same way down there. It's 1,000 degrees and 100% humidity. And I grew up in East Tennessee, and moving back, it's really not as hot up there or as humid. It's been in the mid to upper 80s here, and lows in the low 60s in the morning. So it's been really bearable up in East Tennessee, which has been really nice.
That's definitely nice. Yeah, Lanier. I didn't realize you lived down there for a while. So you have much experience on Lanier?
You could say that. I've made a few casts there. Was real fortunate. Tom Mann Jr. is a real good friend of mine, and another good friend of mine there, Rusty Evans. The three of us fished together, played golf together. We've made a lot of casts at Lanier over the years, so awesome. It's a great place. I'm really looking forward to getting there.
And for everyone listening, the reason why that's important, the NPFL's final event for the year is at Lake Lanier. What, the 22nd, around the 22nd or the
24th
of October?
Yeah. I think the 26th of October. I think it's the first competition day. So
okay.
Yep, 26th October.
Yep.
It's also important, Todd, because the OneCast will also be down at Lake Lanier for you guys' final event. So we're super excited to join you down there.
That's awesome. It's going to be a great event weighing in at Coolray Field there. I used to live, I lived about 4 miles from Coolray and had a rent house over there pretty close to Coolray. The only thing I'm not looking forward to is the drive every day, because we're putting in at Laurel Park, which is at the north end of the lake. And having to drive down 985 every day and get off at exit 4 at Buford and come past the Mall of Georgia and under the interstate. That area has just boomed in the last 5 years. And it might take 45 minutes when you get off at exit 4. It really might take 45 minutes to get to Coolray Field from there. So traffic is not going to be fun, but it's going to be a great event. It's a great venue to have a weigh-in. A lot of fans will be able to show up there, and it'll be a really good time.
Well, it sounds like the OneCast needs to take some orange cones and divert some traffic on the highway so we can make it flawless for to make it to the ramp. So
absolutely, do all you can.
We will. I think Pete was getting ready to go into this. We know a little bit about you. You got a pretty extensive history. Looks like with you fished a lot of Major League Fishing events, or I don't know if they changed it on the websites, but I don't know if they're always MLF events or if they're FLW events in the past. And now you're fishing the National Professional Fishing League. But can you kind of like take us from the start until you were now, and kind of how you got into this deal, and let the fans know?
Yeah, I fished the BFLs when it was FLW for years. Probably, I think, looking back, I think the first BFL I fished was in 2007 in the Bulldog division at Lake Sinclair, and there was like 220 boats in it, and I finished 18th or 19th. So got a check in my first event. Just really enjoyed fishing the group of guys that were there. My good friend Chris Baxter at Zoom, him and I traveled a lot of those BFLs together. Jamie Rampy, Brandon Cobb, we traveled together. Moved over, fished a lot of the Savannah River division because I really enjoyed fishing Lake Russell and Clark Hill and Kiowee and Hartwell, and just have fished a lot of years in the Savannah River division. Fished a Toyota Series one year. That was a lot of fun. In 2019, the volunteer divisions regional was at Hartwell. So I still lived in Georgia at the time, and I traveled fishing that division again, and got to see a lot of old faces and a lot of friends that I had fished against in college, and even after college. I lived in East Tennessee in the mid 90s up until about 2000 for a brief stint, moving around with my job. So it was cool to hang out with the Tim Smileys and the Rex Pendergrasses and those guys, and finished. I think I finished 6th in the division that year, and made the All-American through that Hartwell regional. It was kind of a crazy story. I ended up catching, I think, the largest bag of the day the second day, and was in 6th. And then I finished the event in 6th, but I tied with a buddy of mine, Conrad Bolt, and the tiebreaker was the largest catch of the tournament. So having that second day really good string got me in the All-American. And then I was leading that joker going into the final day, had 2 really good days, and the final day, it just wasn't meant to be. Jeremy Lawyer's team partner, Chris Macy, who's a buddy of mine, we had to be in at 3:30, and at like 3:14, he catches a 4-pounder that beat me. So it's just when it's meant to be, it's meant to be. It's your time. So it's a great week. Really the highlight of my fishing career. Won a lot of tournaments over the years, up in East Tennessee and down south too. And I've known Al McCullough for several years now, and I was actually going to fish the inaugural season of the NPFL. I had committed, and we bought some land. With the land we bought in East Tennessee, we bought 65 acres, and we built our forever home there. So we were starting to get that going, and my daughter was starting her senior year in high school, and there was just a lot going on. And unfortunately, I called Al and had to back out for the inaugural year. But things kind of settled down, and he called me right after ICAST in 2021. Yeah, 21. And, asked me if I'd be interested in fishing, and things worked out, and I was able to get a title sponsor. A good friend of mine was interested. So things just worked out. So I was able to hop in the NPFL last year and had a good year. It's funny, my worst finish of the season was at Hartwell, of all places.
Really?
Yeah, it was like a 55th place finish, but I think I cashed 4 checks in 6 events last year over there in that season, and I think I finished 13th in AOY last year. But great time. The league's awesome. A lot of great people there, anglers and the ownership group that runs it, just top shelf people, and it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed it.
So obviously we love the league and stuff too. What do you do? Like, what is your full-time job outside of fishing professionally?
So I've been in pest control for almost 20 years, and currently I'm in construction services, selling programs, remodels, refreshes, things like that. So that's kind of my day job. And then again, I'm co-owner of Pulse Fish Lures too. So that business is growing really well. So I wear a lot of hats, including this one.
Yeah, that's right. Pulse Fish Lures. I can't forget. But the reason I ask you is that for your full-time job, is that like a remote type deal where you can do that on the road when you're traveling nationally for the NPFL?
It is. Fortunately, it is a remote position, and I do travel, a good bit with that job as well. But they've got a culture of they call it flex PTO, so you can take as much PTO as you want, as long as you're doing your job. So, I gotta keep doing my job, but yeah, it affords me the ability to get out here and fish as well.
Yeah, I think that's important for, I'm sure you see that a lot, like on social media or different forums and stuff, or, the younger guys trying to get into the game, they're always chasing the sponsor deals and stuff like, hey, who's going to pay my way? But, like yourself and a good friend of ours, Destin DeMarion and Mike Corbishley, and there's a whole slew of them. But I think the important message here is like, you can have a job and still fish professionally depending on the type of job that you have. And it's pretty cool that a job like yours and a job like Destin's and so on and so forth support them to use, a national fishing tour as a platform for them to promote different types of product, but at the same time still being able to do their day job and stuff. So it's probably a grind for you though, especially when you're fishing and you're having to do work after the fact, is it not?
Most of the time I've always been I grew up in the restaurant business as a kid. My grandfather was in the restaurant business. My grandfather was one of the early founders of Piccadilly Cafeteria back in the 40s. And my dad worked for him for 37 years. And I was washing pots for my dad when I was 14. So, moved into like cooking type things as I got a little older, and that job really taught me time management, and I have a task oriented brain. So I'm able to just knock out a lot of tasks at one time. And I'm the kind of guy that I like to touch something once and move on and not have to go back to it. And I just, it's worked for me, having that kind of task oriented brain. So I usually get 60 to 100 emails a day, and, just there's a lot of moving and shaking going on, but I make it work. It's never become a grind. I mean, they've nicknamed me Paw Paw on the league. Luke Duncan said I named myself that, but I actually didn't. Pat Walters nicknamed me that, but it's never been a grind. Life's just too short to be miserable, man. I just got a positive attitude. Things are great. Are some days a little better than others? Yeah. But I've just always just had that positive mindset, and it served me well over the years. So I'm able to juggle a lot of chainsaws at the same time without losing an arm. So, and it's kind of, well, I was just going to say, my years in pest control, that's how I got associated with Safe Haven. I met these guys like 4 years ago, and the owner is an avid bass fisherman. And Safe Haven, any of you have been in a Home Depot, a Lowe's, a grocery store, and you see a bird flying around in there? They have it. The technology is patented. It's called MistNet technology, and they guarantee humane removal of birds from any commercial setting up to like 2 million square feet, or you don't pay them. And I introduced them to several of my national account customers a few years ago, and they're doing great. They took care of my customers, and that relationship has really blossomed. So they do a lot of nuisance wildlife, and really any job. Their answer is yes. What's the question most of the time? So it's been great having them as my title sponsor this year, and especially like Destin with a non-endemic, who's a buddy of mine too, and to be able to have a non-endemic like that, somebody that fishes, that tournament fishes, that gets it, on your side, in your corner, that's just paramount to us anglers out here, is to have those kind of relationships.
Yeah, especially in a time in angling when the non-endemic sponsors aren't there like they once were. We talk about it a lot with Destin's, and Harvey's a friend of ours. He's been on. We've talked about how, when we all grew up watching it, and I'm sure as you were coming up, everybody was sponsored by, Citgo's on everybody's shirt. They were basically getting fuel for free. They were giving them a boat every year. They were throwing trucks at them to drive all over the country. And then as that dried up, those non-endemic relationships have become less and less. I'm starting to see a bit more come back, especially the higher the level you get. I noticed like the media coverage and the reach that you have locally is starting to appeal to those local companies. So you're starting to see more Bob's Hardware, on somebody's jersey that's fishing the NPFL or the Elites or the Bass Pro Tour or anywhere where there's that exposure, because there is exposure to you. Your local fans are watching. They know it's a hometown kid, and they see, Chuck's barber shop on his jersey, and they're going to go down there and get a haircut. So yeah. I'm hopeful that it comes back. I don't know if we'll ever see it on a national scale like we did, back in the early 90s, through most of the 90s and early 2000s, where it was kind of those big national companies were doing it. But hopefully we do for anybody that's out there chasing it. I'm sure you would love to have some of those non-endemics like Citgo or somebody come calling.
Yeah, and things are cyclical. I think some of that stuff probably will come back around. To your point, Nick LeBrun's a good friend of mine that fishes a Bass Pro Tour. His title sponsor is Covington Lumber there in Louisiana, and he's got a great relationship with those folks, and they have no intention of going anywhere. So, like you said, it's all about creating value for your sponsors, and what you can do for them, and how you can influence buying decisions, get them in front of the right people, and just be out there and be present and be a good steward of their business. It's that those things generally makes it work out really well with every sponsor, not just the non-endemic, but you gotta find ways to create value, for everybody that you're partnered with.
And I think obviously you presented an excellent example of that when you talked about Safe Haven, and your full-time job. You saw an opportunity for some of your customers to say, hey, you have these problems with these birds or, whatever kind of critters are getting into your store. I know a guy that can help with that and do it humanely. And you can kind of make those connections. And it's just another way to prove your value. And it's one of those things like we've talked about with a lot of folks who've been on. And I'm glad we keep going down this road, because I think it's important for anybody that wants to do this for a living or attempt to do it, how important the sponsors are, but how much work and value you need to actually provide them. Nobody's going to just hand you money to put a name on a jersey and that be the end of it. You need to be able to use the product, talk about the product, mention the product when the opportunity is there. And that was a great example of, an opportunity to bring your lives together and make a win-win situation for everybody involved. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
And I want to jump in on this. And like Pete said, I'm glad you talked about this. It's a consistent narrative that we hear out of seasoned anglers that are fishing nationally. But, like you are, and we want to get into this, Pulse Fish Lures. I'm sure you're probably already getting hit up like Ben, owner of OneCast Fishing. he gets hit up all the time from people that say, hey, I'd like you to sponsor me. Here's what I need, versus, developing that relationship you talked about with some sort of value and saying, here's what I can do for you. Here's the exposure I can give you. Here's how I can move the needle for your company to increase your revenue stream and stuff like that. So that's such an important message, because even myself, when I got into following professional bass fishing and stuff like that, I didn't really have a good understanding of how these partnerships, these sponsorships and stuff like that worked until I started talking to anglers like you. So I think it's an important message.
Absolutely. And I get probably at least 10 emails a day about it. And,
Yeah,
it's, I can't remember who said it, but I think it might have actually been Swindle on a podcast was talking about this. But, I have people that you run the gamut of people that just email you and say, send me some of your product and I'll try it for free. And, they don't understand the business aspect of running a fish and lure company. I mean, it's, we're not multi-millionaires. This isn't Berkeley. This isn't Strike King. This isn't Lose. We're just a small company that's growing, and we're fortunate we actually sponsor Matt Airy, who's a North Carolinian there around you guys and over in Shelby, and Brian New, who he's moved to South Carolina. But, we partnered with those guys and early on, and New goes out and wins. I was fortunate to get the title sponsor spot on his boat his rookie year on the Elite Series, and he wins the first tournament right out of the gate. So that put us on the map really, really quick. Both of them, it's a great parallel between the two guys, because, Matt's been doing it a long time. He's just got a professional way of doing things. Not to say that Brian doesn't, but their style's different. I guess that's the perfect way to say it. Their style's different. They might actually, have a different demographic reach when they're up on stage and when they're fishing and all of that kind of thing. So we feel we got the two best guys out there, and they've done a phenomenal job for us promoting the brand, helping us grow the brand. But, we've invested in some e-commerce stuff here recently too. You may have seen it on social media, on Facebook, where we're growing a team, and it's an ambassador program, but it's a really deep discounts on our bait and gear. I mean, where else can you go right off the bat and get 30% off of everything on the website if you become part of the team? And even Swindle talked about, seminars that he does, kids starting off, how do I become a professional bass fisherman? Start with some of those smaller companies, and, to start, if it's just for a discount, that's great. But then show them how you create value, and not just think you're Kevin Van Dam overnight and think everything you get is free and I should be writing you a check. Earn your way in this industry, which is what I've done. I've been doing this a long time, and I've got a lot of long-term partners, on my jersey because of that, because of the value I've created, the little extra that I've always done for sponsors. And it comes back to you in spades if you do that. So, I mean, for example, the guy that fished with me the first day in the All-American is a co-angler. His name is Nathan Quince. He started a YouTube channel. He's got a big following. And he posted a video about our 1/8 ounce pulse jig, and I didn't even know about it. And we start getting all these internet orders, pa-ching, 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 and this was last year. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I fished with you in the All-American. I don't know if you remember me, which I did. But I got on the phone with him and I was like, man, that's awesome, Nathan. Appreciate you doing that. And him and I worked out a little partnership deal because he went above and beyond. He's done videos with Cast to Catch, with our products. So, those are the type of people we want to partner with. and we gave him a discount code to promote, and we're actually paying him a commission every quarter for the revenue that he generates for us. That's doing it the right way, creating that value for that company. It's a win-win. So I think, a lot of folks just starting out or really trying to grow their portfolio, if they would take an approach like that and do the little extra, that's what's always made me successful in both fishing and in life, in my day job. It's just do the little extra.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Ben's done a lot of that with OneCast Fishing, but since we're on the topic of pulse fish lures, can you before we jump into the NPFL stuff, can you kind of run down like how that came to fruition and where that opportunity arose? How do you say that? Came from?
Sure. So the guy that invented the pulse jig, it's a scrounger type bait. His name is Randy Link, and he's just a tinkerer. He was a Ranger Boats rep for years and years, qualified for the Bassmaster Classic back in the Hank Parker days, and him and Hank are really good friends. And he's always been a tinkerer. And he invented this thing, I'm not sure, probably 2010 maybe, somewhere in there. And it really, I've thrown it not long after that. I found the bait, and I'm a scrounger guy. I've always been a scrounger guy. Years and years ago, Aaron Martin sent Tom Mann some of the original, what he called the 1/4 ounce long bill scroungers to try out. And Tom and I went out to Lanier. This was back in 2008. And I mean, we wound them up on every place we stopped. I mean, 3s, 4s. I caught a 5-pounder that day on it. It was stupid. And I was hooked on scrounger baits for life after that day fishing. But sadly, in 2019, Randy's wife was killed in a head-on car crash over by Lake Hartwell. And my good friend, and we fished a lot of team tournaments together, and he worked with Randy, just helping him fill orders and package baits and do a lot of stuff for Randy. His name's Jeremy Wynn. Randy came to Jeremy and I and said, "Hey guys, I really don't want to do this anymore. My heart's not in it, after what happened with his wife." And he said, "I'd really like for you two guys to take it over." He said, "I know you guys could take it places that I could never take it." So Jeremy and I talked about it, and we decided, sure, we're going to do that and keep the pulse jig alive. And so we really took it over in February of 2020, right in the middle of COVID, basically. But, everybody was fishing with COVID, so we were pretty busy. So, and since then, we've been able to launch a lot of new products to grow the brand, and from just a standard swim bait head to Matt Aries finesse swim bait head. Brian knew we've got a 1 ounce bait. It's a big 1 ounce bait now. It's got an 8-aught Gamakatsu hook in it. It's for ledge fishing, like throwing Magnum flukes and jerky jays, things like that. It's called the Boss Man. But I mean, we've got swim jigs and spinner baits and a nighttime spinner bait that's incredible called Night Vibes. I've caught more fish on Douglas at Cherokee at night. We have one color called Purple Dawn. It looks like a morning dawn skirt with a nighttime spinner bait, and the bait's got a 6-aught Colorado blade on it. It's a thumping. Oh man, it will flat out catch them. So, we've grown the brand. We're continuing to grow the brand. We've got some other products in the works. We've got something really exciting that's going to launch in January. Matt and I have been working on. So, it's out of tragedy comes, something good. And Randy's doing great. We send him a check every quarter too, so he's still a part of it, and it's been a good story. So
yeah, that's I told you that we had a conversation. We had a show with Matty Wong. Was it last week before last week? It must have been, right? And he has a really cool story. If you get the opportunity to listen to that episode, check it out. But I said that I kind of said, I was like, man, when tragedy creates opportunity. And you hear that a lot. That's throughout life in general. But, there really are a lot of opportunities that come out of, maybe tragedy or something else. And it's really cool to see you jump on that. And I think the other cool thing is there's a lot of anglers on tour, like KJ Queen, he has Queen Tackle. You have Pulse Fish Lures. I don't even know the other ones right now.
Taylor Watkins. Taylor Watkins has Omega.
That's
Yep.
right, Taylor. I forgot about Omega.
So it's pretty cool to see all you guys also have another revenue stream to feed, the fire of fishing the national level. So, and then you get the opportunity to just create, unlock that imagination and do some creative stuff that's going to help you, on the tour. So
for sure. Yeah. And we, one thing I will share, I mean, we have a swimmer too. It's a Seville type swimmer, but it's handmade. And, the guy that builds them for us, I've known him for, at least 15 years, if not 20. And he's been making custom baits like that for a long time. So, that thing has sold like gangbusters too. And we're actually, this will be the first anybody's heard this in the universe, but we do have a glide bait we're working on that's going to come out late this year, probably, early next year. So our focus 1,000% is on quality. And to this day, Jeremy and I make, and his wife Risha too, we make every pulse jig by hand. We put the bill on the bait still to this day, every one of them. We won't send it out the door unless it's perfect. It has the right cup in it and the right action. And, our thing is, made in the USA. The spin caster that makes our heads is in Alabama. The bill material's made in Texas, and it just doesn't yellow, as fast as our competitors does. And the way we put the bill on, it's a proprietary way. No other scrounger in the market, the bill is put on the head like we do it. And it makes for better action. It also, the bait won't roll either. One of the drawbacks of a scrounger bait is they roll if you reel them too fast, and ours does not do that. We actually have striper guides at Lake Hartwell trolling our 1 ounce 5 to 7 mile an hour, and
Wow.
catching big stripers on them. So, our focus is 100% on quality. And if you go on our website and look at, I think there's a tab on the website called Happy Customers. If you click on that, all of that is organic. We didn't pay for any of those reviews. And probably 95% of the reviews are 5-star. It's just a testament to the hard work we put into it. And we just don't let anything go out the door that's junk. We never will.
Yeah, I have some of your pulse jigs, and I've had them I have some I think I ordered back in 2019, and they haven't yellowed at all. And I have some from some competitors that about 3 days in the box, and I think they're yellow and don't look right. But yeah, you guys have a great product. So
some of them are yellow in the box, hanging on the peg in the store too.
I have seen that. Is there?
Yeah.
that's good. Some have been sitting in Grandpappy's bait shop since 25 years ago.
That's
Right.
But that's awesome, man. Before we move on, do you guys have any questions on Pulse Fish Lures?
No.
And hey, everyone's heard it now, Todd. You're getting into the glide bait game.
Yeah.
And there's a huge cult following in the glide bait game. So that's a pretty cool deal. And tell you what, the guys have been putting those glide baits to the test, whatever manufacturer that may be, and they've been catching some big ones on that bait.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
It has been catching a lot of big fish this year, and again, our glide bait we won't release it to the public till it's right, with the right action. So we're testing it currently. There's we may make a modification or two on it, and but it's gonna be right when it goes out the door. So and it'll catch them too. So
awesome.
Well, you'll for sure be getting some of my money because I'm in the glide bait. So
Yeah.
I'm always ready to add a couple more.
We all know Pete's got like $10,000 for the glide bait.
I'll be trying to figure out how I can prove that bad one.
I'm like, Ben and I would be like, Pete, you throwing those glide baits? He's like, nah, I'm too scared to lose them. So they just
some days it's like that.
That's one of those. That's one of those where your wife only thinks you got like $1,000 in glide baits, right?
Yeah. No, well, unfortunately, she works in the industry and has her finger on the pulse, so she knows.
So, like, it's such a cool thing. Like, they order tackle together. You know, like, I don't know how you can have a better, you know, system, man. But
it works for me because as long as I order 2 of whatever I'm getting, so I can give, you know, so she can have one because she knows if I'm ordering it, there's a reason. So I'm good as long as I get 2.
Yeah.
You got to.
So then
you got to figure it out.
That's
you
right.
got to figure
I
it
just
out.
got lucky. I got very lucky.
He unlocked the secret.
What's going on, guys? Pete with the OneCast here. So excited to announce our newest podcast partner, Carolina Waters. Carolina Waters is a performance fishing and outdoor lifestyle apparel company that's based right here in North Carolina. They provide clothing like lightweight UPF shirts for those days out on the water or in the field for your hardcore fisherman or athlete. They also have casual t-shirts for those more relaxing days. Tons of different styles of headwear for the whole family. No matter what it is you're doing, if you're doing it outdoors in the Carolinas or anywhere across the country, Carolina Waters has you covered. Be sure to head over to their website, check out the apparel, find what fits your needs at carolinawatersnc.com. For the month of September, use the code TheOneCast, all one word, to save 20% off your order at carolinawatersnc.com. Again, that's carolinawatersnc.com. Use the code TheOneCast at checkout to save 20%. Appreciate y'all. Make sure you check them out. Use that code to let you know that we sent you. Help us continue to grow a culture of anglers helping anglers, one cast at a time.
So let's run down.
Just real quick, I just wanted to speak to, you know, you talked a little bit earlier about the positive mental attitude, and then, you know, obviously the opportunity from the tragedy with Pulse Fish. You know, for anybody listening, if you listen to our episode with Maddie, he has that same attitude. You know, he's super positive guy. So when something hits, if you can maintain that positive attitude and try to take the best out of it as a terrible situation, you know, that's part of it. So it's cool to hear two guys that have that positive, you know, mental attitude and try to think the best. And, you know, like you said, every day is a good day. Just some days aren't as good as others. You can carry that when bad situations occur, and you can make the best out of it, which you did. So it's cool to hear. It's cool to share that with people because not everybody has the ability to do that, as we know, but you know, it's refreshing to hear.
And I think from the outside looking into it, it sets an example for all anglers, or all people in general, because you see how much the negativity is going around right now. But like when somebody sees the, you know, a tragedy create an opportunity to build some form of resiliency. I know those are like a lot of big words for me, but to me, that's what I want. I want kids to see that stuff. We want kids to see that stuff because it's too easy to get sucked down the drain of all the negativity going on in the world. So, you know, talking about the relationships or the partnership deals that don't just happen overnight, to creating opportunities, to having different ventures and different revenue streams, led you to being part of the National Professional Fishing League and being in the lead, Progressive Angler of the Year. Why the NPFL? Out of all the leagues, why the NPFL for you?
Well, I guess I'm kind of at a stage in my life where it was a good fit. I had a chance right out of college. I could have went and fished bass when it was the old invitationals and the top 150. Things just didn't work out. I actually had a deal that would have afforded me, you know, a truck and a boat to use for the year. But at the time, you know, I'd already kind of made up my mind when I got out of college, I was going to go into management with Piccadilly and kind of follow my dad's footsteps and my grandpa's. And the guy I knew at the time, I was going to get a 3-year deal right out of college, but it turned into a 1-year deal because of a merger and an acquisition. And, you know, it was too big of a risk for me at the time to take that. Just, you know, the guys out there back then had fished. They went to a lot of the same places every year. And, you know, you need more than 1 year under your belt to, you know, kind of sow your oats, I guess, so to speak. So I passed on it then. Had a couple of different times that Bill Taylor offered me a spot on the FLW tour that I could have went and done that. But again, it was all timing. My oldest daughter was playing travel softball and high school softball, and my youngest daughter, my wife and I divided and conquered. She took the younger one to t-ball, and I took the other one to travel ball, and we run the roads with tournaments, and wouldn't trade a minute of that for anything, because both of them played college softball. My oldest one played at King University up in Bristol, Tennessee, and my youngest, she's 21 now, but she's playing at UNC Greensboro, actually. She's a starting pitcher there, and they won the Southern Conference this year and made it to the NCAA. They made it to the World Series, and got to watch Clemson tag them pretty good in the first game, unfortunately. But it was it's wouldn't trade a minute of that for nothing. And again, I'm kind of at a time in my life where things have kind of settled down. My wife and I are empty nesters, and I said, hey, let's give this a go. I've always been competitive in tournaments, and I've done well, and I felt like I could compete with those guys out there if I just had a chance to get out there. So that's really the reason for the NPFL. It's all been timing. So unfortunately, it took me to 54 years old to get there, but hey, age is only a number. My dad is 80. My dad's 82 years old, lives in Lubbock, Texas, and he still fishes tournaments, still fishes in the bass clubs, got a 17-foot Triton. I taught him how to read his Lowrance graphs. He's got 2 8s on that thing. I taught him how to fish offshore deep for spotted bass, and he's beat the brakes off those guys out there for many, many years now.
That's awesome.
So
I think, you're absolutely right about fishing. Age is a number. It's one of those sports that you can go chase your dreams at pretty much any age. And I think what you said there, about timing being right, we've had countless anglers on, regardless NPFL or from bass, fishing the opens. Like, it is such a grind, and there's so much time away from your family, is that some folks, it's just not right for them at the time. But with this sport, you can be 54 years old, 60 years old, and still be a rookie. Come out, if you qualify, you can be a rookie. If you can hang with them, you can do it, which is unlike probably any other sport or hobby out there, is that you can do it at any age. What's one question I had for you was, so you fished the BFLs or the FLW, whatever they called it back then.
Toyota is made. Yeah, you said it already.
Yeah, well, they've changed names so many times. But so you fish those. It sounds like regionally. I know you've picked and chose different divisions depending on championship. But and so you've traveled around certainly a little bit. But was there a big transition, learning curve? Obviously, you did very well last year. You're leading this year, so this might be a terrible question about if there's a big learning curve or anything. But was there anything going to the NPFL where you're traveling all across the country? You have, a certain amount of practice days. It's 3 days in the water, a little bit, little longer format than maybe a traditional where you were used to fishing.
I normally for BFLs, and even, I usually practice for 2 days for the BFLs, and the Toyota series was, normally, 3 or 4 days, and kind of worked an off day in there before the tournament day. So that part of it, really, that wasn't that much of a change. And, the venues we went to last year, I'll just have to say, being from East Tennessee and fishing those lakes up there really suited the style of fishing on the schedule last year. Going to Cumberland right off the bat, fishing at Watts Bar. I had some history there, and having sucked the last 2 years in the opens in Florida, I learned a lot while sucking, but it allowed me to I had a really good event at Toho, the last event last year in November. So just got a lot of experience, on those type of bodies of water, and as much as I've learned over the years fishing for spotted bass too, down there at Lanier and Hartwell and Kiwi and Russell and those places. So most of the lakes we go to just kind of fit my style. I like to do a lot of different things. Duncan will say I'm just an old worm dragger out there, after Santee, but I like to do a lot of different things. I love to catch them on spinnerbait, and you might have seen some of the footage up at Saginaw, the last event we were just at. I had a buzzbait locked in my hand when I was largemouth fishing, pretty 90% of the time. And man, how fun is that to catch 50 a day blowing up a buzzbait? I mean, it doesn't get any more fun than that. And so the venues have kind of fit my style, and I will say I enjoy having the off day, with the NPFL. I think it's really cool that we get out and do some outreach in the communities that we're at. I've participated in some of those, and sometimes my travel partner, who's from Michigan, a really good friend of mine, Angel Rosario, we work on tackle. We snuck off and played golf before on that off day, and just kind of get, not that we're getting away from it, but it's fun to just go play golf and just have a good time cutting up. And, it's been a really fun time on the NPFL so far.
You're not the first angler who has told us that East Tennessee has been a great area to basically prepare to fish all across the country, because within your small little 3 or 4 hour radius, you can ledge fish. There's grass on the lakes. You got smallmouth, largemouth, spotted bass around. You don't have to go very far to fish all different types of conditions. Whereas if you're down in Florida all the time, it's pretty similar. I know if you're up north in certain places, you'll have grass and stuff too, but sometimes those smallmouth act different up there.
That's right.
It's definitely not the same. Yeah, the grass we get up north Roanoke up there, it's not the same.
Yeah, they act different in East Tennessee. I mean, you can catch them at Cherokee out there on a small swim bait and a Demiki in the wintertime. But like you can go up to Bristol, an hour and a half from my house, and fish South Holston, and that water's gin clear. You can pitch a quarter in the water and see it down there, go down 20 feet. I mean, there's a lot of diverse styles of fishing, from, Chickamauga, Watts Bar, all the way up, to Watauga, South Holston, Boone Lake. Just a lot of different types of fishing. And even on Cherokee, you can go up the river and fish dirty stained water, or you can go down the lake, go down toward the dam and fish a little clear water. The same goes for Douglas too. Douglas is in a little bit of a downturn right now. It's got a blue 1.5 million pound in it. They've put some regulation in. Hopefully it'll help to kind of grow those and get that year class grown up a little bit more. But there's a lot of that size fish in the lake. So, but yeah, there's a lot of diverse fisheries around, where I live, which is fun. It's almost, depending on the time of year, it keeps it fun there. It's like going to a new lake sometimes.
Yeah. I'm from Kalamazoo, Michigan originally. I'll never move back because I don't know how I could deal with not being able to run the boat 365 days a year. But I do have to give the North a shout out though, like the fishing up there. And I did watch some of your footage the other day up in Saginaw Bay, and unfortunately have never fished there before. But the fishing in the North is just amazing. I mean, multi-species. Like everything is just fun to catch up there. And I know you get frustrated when you catch a giant northern pike on a buzzbait or whatever the case may be, but it's still fun. But
in practice, especially.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably going to go through a lot of buzzbaits. But I mean, you got a lot of hammers on your heels right now. As you're leading Progressive AOY for the NPFL. But what do you think the number one, or maybe it's just not one thing, but how do you unlock that mentality? Like what do you think the biggest contributing factor is to you being so consistent this year?
It's two things. I've planned really well before I left the house from a strategy standpoint. Just, looking at weather, looking at Google Earth, looking at wind directions, doing all of that before I left the house. And then it's just making good decisions on the water. I mean, it's been one of those years that everything I've done so far has been the right decision. I mean, it's just, and I can think of instances at every lake that, at Pickwick, the first event, I had a little jerkbait bite deal going. And I was in this area and I lost a fish. I actually had the jerkbait on. It really wasn't the wrong rod, but for the jerkbait that I had tied on, it was the wrong jerkbait. So I lost one about 4 pounds the first day, and I only weighed in 4 fish the first day. And fortunately, I was only in 34th place. It was really tough for, cold weather hit, and Pickwick wasn't fishing like it normally was. But losing that one fish, and I lost another one on the right rod, but it clued me in on what they were doing in this area. And the next morning I ran right back down to that area and caught 13 pounds in 20 minutes. Just boom, 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 boom. On the right rod with the right jerkbait. But I found one place in this area, and it was a gravel patch about as big as probably 2 hoods of your pickup truck. And it had grass growing around it, and it was in 8 foot of water. And you had to make the right lineup. And I made that lineup in Sunday in practice and caught a 5.5 pounder on a jerkbait. So that place, I rotated around, but I fished that place like 3 or 4 times each day. And every time I fished it, I caught a big one off of it. And I caught 18 pounds the second day and jumped up, really well. Well, I was catching them on a Edo, Tennessee shad Vision 110 because it was bright sunny the second day, and it was the perfect jerkbait for those conditions. Well, the third day, it's drizzly, rainy, just nasty. And this is where that East Tennessee experience comes in, and Tennessee River type of scenario. In March, if we go somewhere Tennessee River, I always have a black and gold jerkbait tied on. Largemouth especially, it just catches them. And I rolled up into my area, and I did catch the first 2 on the Edo, Tennessee shad, and then they just quit biting it. And I ended up catching every fish after that on that black and gold one, and they started really eating it really good. And I caught a 4-pound largemouth off that line and that cast that morning, and I went back. And I thought I really only had like 10 minutes to fish before I had to start back because I had a pretty long run to get back to check-in. And I lined up on that place one more time and made that cast with that black and gold jerkbait and caught a 3.5 pound smallmouth. So that got me the 10th place finish there. And then we go to Wright Patman. The first day of practice, I don't get a bite. And I'm fishing stuff that looks great, bushes, and the water really, really stained. And I'm like, what's going on? I can't get a bite. And the second day, I went to a totally different area of the lake and found cleaner stained water and went about 40 yards and caught a 4-pounder. And then I went around this corner, and there was a bush there, and it was the perfect scenario. The fish were in that much water. I mean, I've never seen a 6-pound bass be in 6 inches of water and you not see them. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But this fish blew up under this big bush chasing bait underneath there. So I skipped a white swim jig under there like 5-6 times. I never got a bite. Picked up a black and blue one that I'd put a rattle in, made one cast with that joker underneath that bush and catch that 6-pounder. It was crazy. So, and that was Monday. So I went about 50 more yards and I catch another 4-pounder out of the same kind of bush. And I put the rods down, never made another cast in practice. And all I did was mark those kind of bushes in the area. I was in a big area, but I was able to strategically mark those areas and come back to them. And I mean, I catch a 7-pounder the first day of the tournament. I mean, it's just a really, really good tournament. But and I think having a rattle in my swim jig and just me changing colors, and then Santee, the wind's blowing. I'm looking at practice and the wind. I usually like to fish across the lake from takeoff over in Rocks Pond and the Brickyard. I like to fish over in that area. Well, I could tell from the wind in practice that it was going to be blown out. So I didn't even go that side of the lake. And a lot of my buddies went over there and unfortunately they didn't do very well. And I stayed, on the other side of the lake and stayed close, and it just worked out. So, I've just made really good decisions this year. And at Saginaw, the wind's going to blow up there crazy directions each day. So Tuesday in practice, I practiced on the side of the lake that I'd never been to before and had a really good, 300 or 400 yard stretch for largemouth. And it was crazy because I found a spot last year, an offshore rock pile. And my strategy was to go catch 13 or 14 pound of largemouth and then go smallmouth fishing. But this rock pile was so close, in takeoff when you come out of the river, it's 7-8 minute run to this rock pile. So I'm like, I'm going to start there and then I'll, go largemouth fishing. Well, I roll up there and my second cast, I catch a 479 smallmouth. I mean, and in 20 minutes, I got 15 pounds, almost 15 pounds. I'm like, well, I just did it in reverse order today. and then I went and got
history is important.
That's right.
Yeah. And I never even practiced this place in practice because I knew how good it was. I caught a big one there last year and it was just full of fish, but and it's a shallow one. And the second day the wind blew it out. I never got another bite on it the rest of the tournament, but that, that first day I had almost 19 and, it kind of made my event really. So I say all that to say I've just made really good decisions this year. I've zigged when I'm supposed to zig and zagged when I'm supposed to zag. One of my buddies told me that I could probably fall out of the boat and not get wet right now. So just just going to keep after it. And, if it's meant to be, it'll happen,
What would it mean to you to, and I don't want to jinx anybody, but what would it mean to you to win that Progressive Angler of the Year for the NPFL?
Man, it'd be something special to be able to pull that off. Just the fisheries that we've went to, the diversity in those and the ones we have left, and the guys and gals I fish against. I mean, this is a league of hammers. I mean, it's a really good group of guys that catch them, and as I'm Corbishley takes y'all's money over there pretty regular, and Trent Palmer, he took my money at Lanier, for quite a while, and he's a good buddy of mine. Patrick Walters, Quentin Capo. There's just so many good guys in the league. Jesse Wise, Timmy Reams. You can just go on and on and on, and it's just a solid group of guys. Sheldon Collins. It'd be really special. And there's a lot of fish to catch between now and then. So I'm not getting ahead of myself at all, but it would be special to be able to win it for sure.
So speaking of those fish, we know the next one, we're about a month out from Eufaula, Oklahoma. How are you looking at that ahead of time? I know you're starting to look at weather forecasts and all that. How do you think that one's going to shape up to be down there?
Well, it's really hot there now, and I think by the time we get there, I'm sure the water's in the 90s out there now, and in the fall it's going to be probably fish feeding on small bait. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough event. It's going to be a grinder for sure. I think if you can get lucky and catch 1 3 or 4 pounder and have four solid keepers in the boat. If you could catch 10 to 12 pounds a day, I think you'll get paid. I really do. It's going to be a grinder. to me, it's the make or break tournament for me for AOY. Not saying that I'll catch them at Lanier, but I've fished Lanier enough to know, that time of year the lake could be turning over. So there's things you do a little different when the lake's turning over at Lanier. So I got a little bit of advantage like Trent does there too. So, but I think Eufaula is definitely going to be that grinder type tournament. And I've looked at some of the team tournaments that in the past that have been here, and it takes anywhere from 30 to 34 to win a 2-day team tournament here. So, you take a couple pounds out of that, about 13, 14 a day is pretty golden that time of year here. So it's going to be the one that gets that one big bite every day that'll really separate themselves from the field, I think.
We again, I don't want to jinx anything, but man, it would be a really cool opportunity while we're down at Lanier, because that's where they're going to present the AOY trophy, correct?
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
So we want to see that trophy held real high for you, because that would be a really cool opportunity to be a part of that. The last question I have, and we know you got to go, but do you work as a team? I know you room with a guy from Michigan, but are you more of a individual that does everything yourself, or do you like to share information between anglers?
I've never been really good at catching other people's fish, and I kind of do my own thing. I mean, I try to get away from everybody. My travel partner and I, we share info on, types of places we caught them on, baits we've caught them on, stuff like that. I mean, we share information that way. And I work with, a few other guys out there, and we don't talk about places, exact places or anything specific like that. It's more about type of area you caught one, maybe the bait that you were using, depth, water temperature, just stuff like that, kind of might point you in the right direction. But I typically like to kind of get away from everybody and kind of do my own thing.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You see it more and more people talking about, all these folks rooming together and they have an unfair advantage, or they're fishing like a team. And I try to tell people that I don't think it's that way at all, because I know how I am with people that I know, and it's the same thing. I caught them looking at brush piles and this kind of water depth, and kind of did this in an area like that. Mm-hmm. But I've had people say, here's a waypoint, I caught them on that bush doing that every time, and I'll never catch a fish on that bush. And they'll come in right beside me and catch 10. Like you said, it is very hard to catch another person's fish. So I think that gets blown out of proportion because there's certain people that use it as an excuse, like, oh, I can't beat that guy because he's got 10 other guys on tour that are helping him and giving him where fish are. And I think sometimes that's a little bit of an excuse that we make up in our heads. But appreciate you sharing. That was a good question, Trey. It's one we've asked some other folks, and it's a similar kind of deal. You got to have that village that you can share a little bit of info with one another, but at the end of the day, you're still competing against each other, and might want to see your buddy do well, but you don't want to see him do as well as you.
Yeah, you don't want to be the first loser, but at the same time, like, it's always cool. And that's the cool thing about the NPFL. They really, the anglers do it, but the league itself has created a really cool culture to be a part of. So and you said it's all a timing deal, and I think kind of timing worked out really well for you. I mean, heck, even timing worked out well for us in our podcast, and being friends with Brad and Paul and everyone in the league. So but I don't want us to keep you too long, Todd. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the last thing we really didn't do is Todd, we always like to give our guests the opportunity to shout out all their sponsors, the folks and the companies that allow you to do what you're doing. So take the time, and we know you've already talked about Pulse Lures, but I think there's several other companies out there too that help you out. So
absolutely. And before I do that, Trey, I also want to thank you for your service, and I also wanted to tell you my daughter that's at UNC Greensboro. She just enlisted last week, and she signed up for 6 years. So Thank you for your service. And I told her, I said, I don't want to, when you go to basic training, I don't want to hear a word about how tough it is. You ain't calling me, tell me that. You're going to have to tough it out. So
that's right. Well, you could. Well, first of all, I appreciate that, Todd, and secondly, call me if you have any Army I don't know if you can listen to the Army or whatever, but any military questions, whatever more. Yeah. Okay. Well, then holler at me and let me know.
Yeah, for sure. And I've got a lot of sponsor partners for doing this for quite a while, and I hope I can remember them all. But Safe Haven, of course, they're my title sponsor. They're incredible to work with. Bait Works, great tackle store there in Springfield, Missouri. They've got over 20,000 SKUs of products. I think a lot of people don't realize just how much tackle that they have there. Just huge place there. Zoom Baits, I've been with them and known those guys forever. I actually had them run me a special color of worm I'm going to try out in Oklahoma, so hopefully it works out. But I've been able to invent a couple of baits for them. The Beat Down, the Ned Rig worm, that was kind of my deal, and several colors out there. Killer Dawn was one, Killer Blue, a couple of cool colors. So really, just love working with those guys. Z Decals, best boat wrap company in the business, and vehicle wrap. Arc rods, Louie and them make an incredible rod. I've used mostly the Tharp series rods this year, and the reinforcers, and I've been using their reels too. Their gravity reels, those things are great. They'll cast a mile. You can throw a bait a mile with those things. Seagar, power pole. Running the power pole charge too. Lithium Pros. I've got all 4 lithium batteries in my boat this year, and that Lowrance Ghost trolling motor, I can put it on high and it'll push that Skeeter almost 4 miles an hour. It's ridiculous, and you just go all day. They just you can't kill them. So incredible batteries. Lowrance, of course. Sonar Pros. Trent's company, little company that could. He's helped me out. Good dude. Boat Logics, I've run their mounts now for many years, and you just can't. You go up north, you need Boat Logics mounts on your boat. That's just it. Bahio sunglasses, those things have been really great for me the last couple of years, and like I say, I know I'm forgetting somebody, but Green Pond Landing, Neil Paul there at Lake Hartwell. Neil's a great friend, and been a great partner to me over the years. And lastly, John Meagle Chevrolet and John Meagle Ford there in Dawsonville, Georgia. Those guys, I've bought all my vehicles there since probably 2015, and those guys are in the fishing business. They fish, they hunt, they get it. They really help people out. Give them good deals on vehicles. The service is great. So they've taken good care of me the last couple of years too. So, and it's got a lot of great partners out there that allows me to get out here and do this.
Awesome.
Well, we appreciate it, Todd. We want to see you hold that big gold shield over your head at Lake Lanier, but you got to tackle Eufaula, Oklahoma first. So we're pulling for you. We appreciate you coming on the show. You guys got anything?
Just if you can do me one favor, when we stop recording, just hang out for a second before we let you go. But other than that, I don't have anything. So appreciate everybody listening. Make sure you check out the links below. I'll have Todd's socials on there so you can follow him. Make sure you keep checking out the NPFL. We're definitely pulling for Todd for AOY. Hopefully we'll get to take some pictures with him in that big gold trophy down there at Lanier in October, and continue to help us grow a culture of anglers helping anglers one cast at a time.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Oh, God, it's a toad, son. It's a toad, dude.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day.